Om Tyageshwaram Ramakrishnam Sharadam Matrirupinim Vivekanandam Acharyam Natva Vakshami Shuddhaya. In our last class, we discussed the relation between knowledge and devotion. Here, knowledge means paroksha jnana, knowledge about nature of God, our relation with God. What is the way, what are the accessories necessary to reach the goal? That kind of knowledge. It's information, no doubt. Whether it is absolutely necessary to attain parabhakti or supreme devotion. And the conclusion was, no, it is not absolutely necessary to attain supreme devotion. Supreme devotion is its own result, Swayam Phalarupa. It will reveal itself. So knowledge, this paroksha jnana, is not absolutely necessary to have supreme devotion. We also have examples of saints and seers. But those who attain to that supreme devotion without the help of intellectual knowledge about God, they form a class by themselves. They have intense yearning and utmost sincerity. These two qualities they possess, and if one has such intense yearning for God and utmost sincerity, then no knowledge is necessary. God will take care. So it is not absolutely mandatory kind of stuff. But for many, we lack this intense yearning and sincerity. So for us, we have two options. Either we take help of this paroksha jnana, intellectual knowledge, information about God, what we call swadhyaya, moksha shastra adhyayana. Either we take that or we don't take it. We have two options. Since it is not mandatory, we need not take it. But if we don't take it, we run certain risks. One risk is one may turn a fanatic. One may think that one's own form of God, that is all God is, and all other forms are untrue. So that risk is there. Or whatever fancy ideas one has about spiritual life, one may follow those if one does not study the words of the scriptures. But if we study words of the scriptures, we avoid these two risks. We will know that God can be approached in many forms, and that will take off the fanaticism. We will know what exactly spiritual life means, so we will not pursue our fancy ideas. So it is advisable, it is helpful for most of us, most of the devotees, to take help of this intellectual pursuit called swadhyaya, moksha shastra adhyanam, reading about moksha shastra. When we start doing that, there also risks are there. One is that we may get into a kind of a false notion that more we read, more we are advancing in spiritual life. And that's the danger of studying scriptures. We have to understand, that's where this Narada's idea comes to our help, that intellectual pursuits, paroksha jnana, knowledge about God, second-hand knowledge, it's not going to lead us anywhere by it on its own. It doesn't have that power. It can only direct us. It can only give direction to our love. But it is only the seeking that we have for God, the tug we have, the pull we feel for God, that is our only hope. The knowledge will only help direct it towards God in the proper way. But our help, our hope is only that apara bhakti which we have, that faint attraction for God that we have. That is our only hope. That is the key through which we can enter into God's kingdom. So that's what we discussed. So for most of us, yes, swadhyaya is necessary. Only thing is, we shouldn't think that more we read, more we advance and all that. It is not of much use. We should undertake swadhyaya as a devotional exercise. as an exercise that will strengthen our love for God. That Swadhyaya is helpful. It has the potential to be helpful, to help us strengthen our love for God. That it has. So it has to be used properly. Everything is a double-edged sword. So if we don't make it used properly, it will cut us. So that is the equation between this knowledge, paroksha jnana, and bhakti. With that, Narada kind of concludes the topic of parabhakti, and he has taken up the next subject, tasyaha sadhanani gayanti acharya. We started that sutra last time. Tasyaha means of aparabhakti or preparatory bhakti. Of preparatory bhakti, sadhanani means gayante, sing, acharyaha, the teachers. So teachers sing the means for attainment of this preparatory bhakti, aparabhakti, strengthening this aparabhakti. As we discussed, parabhakti is phalarupa. There are no direct means to achieve parabhakti, supreme devotion. It will reveal itself. But the means that will be enumerated by Narada Maharshi, those will help strengthen our aparabhakti, preparatory devotion, preparatory love. Here Narada, we see his greatness. He is saying acharyaha. He himself is a God-realized person who has realized this parabhakti, but he is not listing means which have helped him. He is saying acharyaha. He is collecting from different teachers and presenting to us. Otherwise, we have to go to each teacher to find out who is saying what. But Narada Maharshi, that is his greatness. He is collecting the teachings and giving it to us from different sources, different acharyas, keeping himself in the background. That's his humility also, and his wisdom also, so that we don't have to run around. These acharyas are not ordinary teachers. They are not just the ones who read and teach. These acharyas, it comes from the acharana. So their teachings are backed by their life and their experience. These are God-realized men and women who have attained to this parabhakti. In whose heart parabhakti has manifested itself. Supreme devotion has manifested itself. It is these kind of people. They have enumerated certain practices that will help develop aparabhakti, preparatory devotion. Now these are come from various sources. So kind of vetted and tested are these means. So these means are tested over time. These have helped different people, and Narada again has filtered them. And third and most important point is, these are non-sectarian. No particular form of God or aspect of God is preached in these teachings. Narada Bhakti Sutra itself is like that. It is a non-sectarian treatise, and he sticks to that line of thinking. When he is presenting the sadhanas, means given by various teachers, he keeps it completely non-sectarian. So these have come from persons of experience, from different sources, filtered, tested, non-sectarian. And on account of all these teachings, so to say, become very basic and essential pursuits, essential means of attaining bhakti. That is the quality of these teachings. They have come from different sources. Those sources are God-realized men and women. These have been tested over time, filtered by Narada, absolutely non-sectarian. So what we get here is a universal, so to say, universal prescription, you can say. Infallible and most basic, most necessary means of attaining bhakti. That is what these teachings will contain, sadhanani, because of the qualities that we enumerated. The word, he uses the word gayante, that's also commentators point out. He doesn't say they teach and all that. Narada says they sing. So that is the glory of bhaktas, you see. When they talk about God, or ways to realize God, ways to strengthen bhakti, they're so happy, jubilant, so to say. And in that happiness, they sing the glories of God. They sing the means and all that about God. Now we have so many songs also. Sadhana karna chahiye manava, bhajana karna chahiye. See, these are means given by these great men and women. And out of fullness of their heart, they just sing. Out of compassion for us. Both things are there. There is happiness. When you sing, there is happiness. That happiness reflects in singing. And of course, they are compassionate. They have compassionate for us who are way behind them. So they want to light the path for us. So they are singing these means. That's the word used by Narada to reflect the joyous mood with which these teachings are given. Most of these teachings, these are divided in two categories, negative and positive. Some teachings are negative, some teachings are positive. And there are adherents who say that they are extremists, so to say. Extremists are like people who take to a view to its extreme. So there are some who say that these negative practices means what you should not do, what we should avoid, that is negative practices. Positive practices is what we should do. So some people say that, look, these negative practices you have to scrupulously follow, and they take it to such an extreme that they think that is enough. You remove the obstructions and your path you will automatically follow. You will reach the goal. That is somehow it's their idea of going about. So they lay great emphasis on practicing negative aspects. But there is danger in it, because if the negative aspect is not coupled with a positive aspect, if a person doesn't practice positive aspect, positive means, positive sadhanas, along with abstaining from what is counterproductive, that person may lead to frustration. That person may become disheartened, depressed, and frustrated in life. Because doing only negative things, what should not be done, avoiding that, but not doing what should be done, that will lead to a lot of frustration. The person will become frustrated. So we shouldn't take it to its extreme. And equally extreme are the others who say that you don't have to bother about giving up things. Don't bother about that. Let you live your life the way you want. You do what you should do. You keep on doing what you should do. And that force of positive things, that will drive away all the negativity. That will remove all the obstructions. You keep on doing what you are supposed to do. But don't stop yourself from doing what should not be done. Don't do it. Just keep doing positive things. That also will not help. Because unless there's one saying that, unless we cease to be what we are, we can never be what we ought to be. So unless we cease to be what we are, we can never be what we ought to be. So we have to cease to be what we are in certain aspects of our life, not entirely, in order to become what we ought to be. So negative is also necessary. Sri Ramakrishna gave the example that those drunkards, night they went and started rowing the boat, and whole night they rowed the boat, and morning they found they were when they were last evening, because they had not raised the anchor. The anchor was still lying, so just couldn't move. So unless, and Swamiji calls it a happy combination, one of the Swamijis calls it a happy combination between negative and positive practices. That is what is absolutely necessary. A happy combination between negative and positive practices. That will lead us forward. So that is in general about whatever practices. And the first practice Narada Maharshi gives as sung by Acharyas, is Tattu Vishayatyagat Sangatyagat. The first itself is something that needs to be given up. Tattu means that devotion. You will get how? By Vishayatyaga and Sangatyaga. Two tyagas Narada Maharaj talks about. Vishayatyaga is actually a renunciation or giving up of objects of senses. Vishaya means objects of senses. So, giving up objects of senses, that is one. Secondly, Sangatyaga, giving up attachment towards these objects of senses. So one is, so to say, physical, practical. The other is mental, psychological. In Bhagavad Gita we hear, Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinaha rasavarajyam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. So a person is nirahara, he or she is not accepting the sense objects. So sense objects are away, but that doesn't guarantee that that person will be free of rasa, rasavarajyam. So rasa is that inner attachment that we have for sense objects. So what Narada is saying is we have to give up both. First, we have to give up this sense object contact. And secondly, the attachment that is there for sense object contact. Now, when we say sense object contact, we again go back to our earlier thought about, see, there are things which we need to do in life. We have our responsibilities, stage and station. According to the stage and station in life, we need to do things. So those things are not meant here. What is to be given up are, so to say, frivolous, unnecessary activities prompted either by restlessness of our mind or addiction to sense objects. These two. There is the addiction or there is simple restlessness. So because of that, we keep on engaging ourselves into useless activities, activities which are not necessary or sometimes which are harmful. So we keep on engaging ourselves. People keep on watching TV up to night, late night, they just can't get up out of it. That kind of excesses. We live in the world, we need to watch some news or whatever. We need some quota of entertainment of every day, maybe, yeah. But beyond that, I mean, there is a limit. So that each will have to draw that line. But Vishayatyaga is where we spend our energies unnecessarily. It is not necessary. Unnecessarily, in a frivolous way, we spend our energies. That is to be controlled. And it has to be controlled physically. Some people say we will give up mentally. Then what is the need of having physically giving up? You know, that Sri Ramakrishna put an end to all these controversies. In his own life, he took a clod of earth and money and put them together in the Ganges, saying money is earth and earth is money. Physically he did, everything he did physically. He went and cleaned the toilet of a very low-class person with his own hair physically. He did not reason. He did not say, I don't have any pride of caste. No, he physically did it. So physically doing things, physically abstaining from frivolous pursuits, it is required, it is necessary. When we do that, then only we will know how much our mind is attached to those pursuits. So long as we don't do it, we may think, yeah, we can give it up any time. We can give up any moment. There are a lot of stories, about sadhus or whatever you call it, depicting that how inner renunciation is more important than external renunciation. The two sadhus, one had so many things in his kutia, the other had very few things. And then this person who had very few things, he went to the other man and said, why are you keeping all these things? Vishayatyaga is necessary and all that. Then the other man said, okay, come, let us go. And he started walking off. And the other guy, who had very few things, but he said, no, I have to get my things from my place. And the other man who had so many things, he just started walking off. So they give such examples to say that Tyaga should only be in the heart. But that's a higher stage. For Tyaga to be in the heart, first it has to be physically given up. Physical abstinence is necessary. We have to curtail our unnecessary activities. It is important. I'm not saying we have to give up everything and everyone should go to forests. I'm not saying that. But just because we live in the world, we have responsibilities, it doesn't give us license to lead any kind of life that we want. This particular subject of Tyaga, Vishaya Tyaga, Sangha Tyaga, it puts off a lot of people. And say this spiritual life, we can't give things up. You don't tell us to give up things. No, that puts off people. But then, if you look around and see anyone who wants to achieve something in life, he or she invariably follows this Tyaga. He or she is giving up a lot of things that he or she is fond of. Sacrifice. Because in order to attain a higher goal, this sacrifice is necessary. So without sacrifice, without Tyaga, without giving up, no one can achieve one's goal if it is high enough. If one's ideal and goal is not very high, then one may not have to sacrifice anything. But any higher goal, to achieve that, we have to give up, we have to sacrifice, we have to curtail our activities. The same people who complain about Tyaga and all that, if their person gets diabetes, he will stop eating sweets. It comes to his or her health. So when doctor tells it's fine, if a scriptures tell, they say no, we can't give up. I'm not some energy. So prana is that energy. So when we check outgoing frivolous activities, we conserve that energy and then it should be used for healthy activities, for such activities which will take us towards God. So this Sangha Tyaga is not something only negative or something which can be compromised with. This Vishaya Tyaga, Sangha Tyaga, it's absolutely necessary. That's how we conserve energy and then we use it for fruitful purposes. The whole secret is that. All right. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.